Hi all, it's Cindy from Cindy's Art. I want to give you 3 different ideas of how to paint a background for a watercolor picture. And the first one's going to be called a wash. And the wash, basically, I layered the purple, then the pink, then the yellow. And I didn't paint any of the dark, but I painted that on the background and I didn't do anything else to it. All I did was add a wash of color. I did the same thing here with this hummingbird. I did a light green, then a darker green. I let it blend wet on wet. And then when the sheen, you know how when you paint a background, you've got the water on there, it's shiny. Wait for some of the shininess to kind of fade away and then add a few crystals of salt, just a tiny bit. And that adds an extra texture in. So this is another idea of a wash. And then I add a little bit of salt and it makes a beautiful background because I want your eye to pay attention to the hummingbird, not to everything else. Another idea for a wash was this storm picture that you'll find on my page. And I worked on the sky first, and when I painted this, I had it wet, but you're gonna see me where I tilted the paper, whatever direction I needed to tilt it in order for this paint to kind of angle itself. It did that on its own. And then I just made sure that I lifted off a little bit of water while it was wet so I could create a wash of color. And then all I did was angle it in order to create a little bit of texture. Another type of background, I would call it the incomplete background. And the incomplete because I could take a squirt bottle and I could squirt water on the background here, and then I could take my brush and just add little dabs of paint in there, and it's gonna blossom and bloom out. And because I've only painted some of it, it's actually gonna make it look like there's clouds back there. I wanted it loose. This is meant to be a loose painting. I wanted the attention to come at the bird and that branch, and it did. So that's another type of background. This painting was done with this loose idea where I basically took paint and a lot of water, splashed it on there. I didn't wet my picture first. I just splashed that paint on there, let it spread on its own. That's why it's got a lot of like interesting texture to it. It's different. I didn't fuss with it. Another type of background is one that I might add in after I've painted a bird. This watercolor painting, I actually was going to have a light background. I decided to make it colorful because the bird is very gray and I could have left it even white. But what I did was I wet the background and then I added dabs of paint. I added dabs of this purple, a turquoise mixed with ultramarine. I used some mineral green with some sap green and violet in there. And then I let it blend. It was very wet. And then when it was almost dry, I took water on my hand and I flicked it on it. And that's why I had these little white dots. It created an interesting background. Another way of blending colors very softly was this painting. I decided not to create a vibrant background. I left it very soft. So I used a little bit of paint and a lot of water. And this is like a burnt umber. It's actually a dark color, but I only used a tiny bit. Aurelion is in here, a little bit of permanent orange. And I kept the colors very basic. I mixed them together a tiny bit so they were not just plain raw out of the tube. It created this soft effect, and I let it just sit. I just let it dry. So that's another way to do it. So those are 3 simple ways: a wash, and then I added salt to it. And then I did the incomplete one where I either sprayed with water, a little bit of water on the background, and then I splashed a little bit of color in there and let it spread. And then the last time was wetting that background and adding dabs of different colors and letting them blend on their own. Try it out. Let me know how it comes out, and we'll see you next time.